Hello everyone, I am here before you today and with another important aspect of CRPC, that is charge. Chapter 17 of CRPC deals with the topic of charge. As you are very much aware about what is the relevance and importance of charge in a criminal trial. Basically, no criminal law can be set into motion, otherwise a complaint or FIR would become a mere piece of paper if proper action has been taken, but yes, there is no particular charge has been framed upon a accused person. The charge plays a very important role in conduction of a trial of a criminal case, and yes, it is, we can say, the backbone of every criminal trial. So we're starting with chapter 17 of CIPC. It's been bifurcated for the purposes of convenience. The chapter has been bifurcated in two parts. First is the form of charge, which is stretching from section 211 till 217. Another is the next aspect, that is joinder of charges, remaining section till 223. So in this particular presentation or video, we would be just concentrating on our first aspect, that is form of charge. What are the contents of charge, how the charges are to frame, what exactly the charge should state. It would be dealing with that. So starting with section 211 of CRPC, it talks about contents of charge, what a charge should actually contain. Basically, the section provides that every charge should basically contain the offense with which the accused person is charged. The charge must state that yes, a particular person has committed such and such act, which is offense as per this particular law and as per this provision of a particular specified law. Apart from that, if the law under which a certain act has been made an offense gives a name to that particular offense, charge should state that name. Suppose, for example, IPC section 300 talks about when culpable homicide amounts to murder and not amounts to murder. So they have given a term murder, name to a particular offense, they have given murder. So the charge should also contain the term murder only. Apart from that, the section also tells about that yes, if no specific name has been given by the law concerned, then a particular definition of offence should be mentioned in charge so as to give accused notice of what particular act we are talking about, which particular act is concerned over here, for which particular act we are making you chargeable or we are taking you as accused in a particular matter. Also, the charge should explain the law under which the act committed by person concerned is an offence and which particular section or provision of that particular law makes it punishable. Apart from that, section makes a very important analyzation and important information it provides us is that making a charge impliedly reflects what? That all the essentials required to make a person liable for an offence was complete. Means, suppose if I imposing a charge of murder on a particular person, all the essential elements required to make a person guilty of an offence of murder under section 300 of IPC are fulfilled. So it is impliedly taken by this particular section that if we are charging a particular person with the concerned offence, all the essentials of that offence are fulfilled. Section also talks about the language of the charge. Charge should be in writing and that too in the language of the court concerned. The purpose of making it to be in the language of court and to be written is that for the later stage of trial it has to be read over to the accused person, and yes, he has to be told that so and so charge is been levied upon you. For that particular person, it is very important to prepare his defense that he must be aware, he must have the knowledge that what exactly the offense he has committed and how he has to now defy the charges laid down by the prosecution, the police, or you can say the magistrate concerned. Apart from that, section also provides for another important aspect, that is, if a particular person has been convicted on a previous occasion also for the same offense, and the prosecution intends to prove that particular prosecution because If prosecution proves that previous conviction, the offender is now liable for enhanced punishment or more severe punishment. So the prosecution intends to prove previous conviction also, just because he wants more severe punishment this time. In that case, the charge must also contain details relating to that previous conviction also. Apart from that, charges are such that the court also can add. Charges are firstly laid down by the police. Initially, charges are framed by the police only in the charge sheet itself, which is submitted to the magistrate under Section 173 of CRPC. But 211 also states that the court is also empowered to add charges at any time before the final sentence is passed. Section 212 of CRPC talks about particulars as to time, place, and person. In addition to Section 211, certain other particulars are also required to be mentioned in the charge, and they are time, place, and persons relating to offence. Means the time of occurrence, the place where the offence was committed, victim of the offence, moreover, if anything was used during the commission of offence or a thing was subject matter of an offence, all these things should be mentioned in the charge so as to give a sufficient notice to the accused person or the offender that we are talking about this particular matter. There can be a situation where a person has committed two, three different offences, out of which only one is still in the knowledge of the police officer or the court concerned. So the charge which is levied upon the person should give him the details that on that particular date and on that particular time, on that particular place, in relation to that particular person, you committed a particular offence and we are charging you with that. Similarly, the section also talks about offences of criminal breach of trust or dishonest misappropriation of money or other movable property. If the accused is charged with such and such offences, sufficient notice as to the sum or description of property involved or the dates on which such offences were committed should also be included apart from other details as mentioned above or in section 211. Additional information in relation to the sum which was involved or the property description which was the subject matter of offence or the dates upon which such offence was committed should also be mentioned in the charge. Section also talks about that every minute detail or we can say exact detail, exact value, yeah, or otherwise full description of property is need not required to be given in the charge. Only brief description, only sufficient description is more than enough so as to give notice to the offender as to which particular offense we are talking about. Apart from that, the time we are talking about of commission of offense of criminal breach of trust or dishonest misappropriation, the date should not exceed the time period of 1 year. The reason is section 219, 216 onwards, we talk about offences of same kind, and these can be clubbed together and charged together, three at one time if they are committed within a span of 12 months. So this section is dealing with that only. That if we are talking about several different instances of criminal breach of trust or dishonest misappropriation, only those offences which are committed within a span of 1 year can be charged together. Apart from that, Section 213 of CRPC talks about the situations when even after mentioning all the details cited by 211 and 212, still the offence is such that it is not clear as to which particular offence we are talking about. In that particular section, 213 states when the manner of committing offence must be stated. Its section provides that now over here. Section talks about that if you have already mentioned all the particulars as were specified under section 211 and 212, but still offender is not getting, accused person is not getting the sufficient notice as to which particular matter we are talking about, manner of commission of offence can also be stated in the charge. To make it more clear to the accused person, we can state the manner of commission of offence, that you murdered that particular person by slitting the throat, or the person was killed by hanging on the fan or on a wood or on the branch of a tree otherwise, or he was poisoned. So in this way manner can also be mentioned in the charge, so as to make it very clear to the accused offender person, accused person, that which particular matter we are talking about. After that, section 214 of CRPC talks about sword and charge taken in sense of law under which the offence is punishable. Simply, this section is reiterating a particular fact, that is literal interpretation rule of interpretation of statute. It is simply stating that wherever in the charge a particular word is used, the connotation or the grammatical meaning or the literal meaning to that particular term or phrase should be in consonance or should be exactly the same as the law has attached to it. The law under which we are prosecuting a particular person and the charge should have the same meaning of the term, phrase, or sentence. Basically, this section, for your more clarity, I would like to tell you that there are certain phrases or terms of law which have different meanings under different laws. So this section is just telling that in order to avoid ambiguities and confusions, the particular law under which we are prosecuting a particular person, the connotations and meanings of words used in that particular law would be taken for the purposes of charge as well. So if a particular law says that movable property includes a bucket, so the charges would also say that movable property includes a bucket only. This is an example. For the purpose of example, I'm telling you over here. So same connotation to the meaning should be attached as is used by the penal law concerned under which we are prosecuting a particular offender. After that, section 215 of CRPC is talking about effect of errors in stating the charge or otherwise conducting the trial. If there can be a possibility that there is error in levying the charge, or a particular charge is omitted by mistake. We have forgotten to levy a particular charge. In that particular situation, such error is not material. It should not affect the trial of a particular case. But yes, if due to such error or omission, accused was misled, or there is failure of justice, in that particular situation, error becomes material. Means there is some gross irregularity or gross mistake on the part of court concerned or the prosecuting agencies, and it cannot be otherwise negated or overlooked. Otherwise, errors are immaterial, but if it has caused failure of justice or the accused is misled, in that particular situation, it becomes material to see such particular errors and rectify the same. Section 216 of CRPC further talks about the power of court to alter the charge. It is not mandatory for a judicial magistrate to try a particular person on the charges which are levied by the prosecution or say the police agency in their charge sheet. The magistrate always have the power to alter, to add, rather he can altogether negate a particular charge, he can add new charges, he can modify the same. This power lies with the magistrate under section 216 of the CRPC. It basically talks about that court has the power to alter or add any charge any time before the judgment. Before the final judgment is pronounced, magistrate can alter the charge, add the charge, or subtract the charge as the case may be. Whenever such modification, alteration, or addition has been made by the magistrate concerned, it must be read over and explained to the accused person, because he is new to that particular charge, he was not aware about it, and neither he has prepared any defense for the same. So the charge must be read over and explained to the accused that now for such and such offense we are charging you and you have to defy the same. Further, the section talks about that if the altered or added charge is not causing any prejudice to the accused or the prosecution, the court will allow to proceed with the trial based upon the additional or altered charge, and it will take it as the original charge. Means no time gap would be given between the alteration, addition, and proceedings of the trial. Immediately after addition and alteration of the charge, proceeding of the case will continue. If it is not causing any injustice or prejudice to either the accused or the prosecution, but if it is causing some prejudice or it can cause some prejudice or injustice to either accused or prosecution, the court will not allow to proceed with the charge immediately. Rather, it will adjourn the matter for necessary period, for the time period in which the accused person as well as the prosecutor can prepare their case well, then they can prepare their arguments well. The court will adjourn the matter till a future date so that it does not cause any prejudice to any particular party. Lastly, the section also talks about that if the added charge or altered charge now is of such nature that for prosecuting a particular person for such charge, previous sanction of government is required. In that particular section, proceedings shall not continue until and unless such previous action has been obtained by the concerned authority, because it is a prerequisite. Earlier it was not a charge, so we were proceeding with the case, but now because the nature of charge has been changed just because it was added or altered or modified by the magistrate concerned, and now the charge is such that yes, previous sanction is required of state government or any other authority concerned in that particular situation. Person can be only prosecuted after obtaining due sanction from the concerned authority. Lastly, Section 217 talks about recalling of witness when charges are altered. In the previous section, we talked about magistrate power of altering the charge. Uh, now, in this particular section, if after addition or alteration of charge, both the prosecution and defense wants, both the prosecution and accused feels that they can recall or re-summon any witness or any evidence which has already been examined by the court during the trial, they can recall them for re-examination, and in relation to that particular alteration or addition, and further new witnesses or evidences can also be introduced in the court in relation to that new charge only, not the charge was what has been already argued upon, but what the court has now modified or altered under section 216. In relation to that only, new witnesses and evidences can also be produced before the court if the court believes that yes, it is required for the purposes of justice. But if the court is of the opinion that it is done just because the prosecution or accused wants to delay the proceedings or delay the end, defeat the ends of justice, the court can also refuse to allow re-summoning or recalling and further introducing or examining of new witnesses. But yes, if a court defies or denies the request of prosecution or accused person in this regard, he has to give his reasons in writing. That is called a speaking order. The magistrate concerned has to give in writing the reasons and why he has not allowed the prosecutor or the accused person to re-examine, recall, or otherwise examine any new witness in relation to additional or altered charge. So this was all about form of charges. I hope you liked this video and it was of some help to you. And if you have any query, again, I would like to invite your questions in the comment section. Please like and share my video if you like so. And the second part of charge would be uploaded soon for your reference. Thank you so much. Take care.